All right, guys, I mentioned in a video last year of price increases for Chanel Les Exclusives that probably we're going to get another price increase this year. And sure enough, at the beginning of February this month, Chanel gave us another price hike for their Les Exclusive fragrances. In today's video, I'm going to break down the price hikes for the Chanel Les Exclusives fragrances, talk about the bottles now coming in 200 ml for Dior PRIVEE, and then another news story after the Dior, all in this video. So if you're curious to learn about all this information about fragrances and what's going on, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian, talking to you about fragrances for the house of Chanel and Dior, and then also another news story after I speak about Chanel and Dior. But most importantly, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the price increases for the Les Exclusives fragrances. And I'm holding up my two favorite fragrances from Les Exclusives, Le Lion and Coromandel. Also, have you guys ever tried layering these two? It's quite good, by the way. What happens is the Le Lion's ambery touches are amplified with a patchouli and a kind of a creamy consistency because the Coromandel has benzoin. So an amber is created with resins. Benzoin is a resin, so it really nicely blends with the DNA of Le Lion, and it kind of makes it a bit brighter and super sexier. In fact, I already know Le Lion is a really great fragrance. This gives it a bit more of an interesting edge because I've mentioned Le Lion has a little DNA of Coromandel. I get like light hints of it. So when you mix it together, it's a great combo. But beyond that, the deal is that Chanel has raised prices again. And you're going to want to tune into the last story I'm going to talk to you about because it makes sense. The brands are selling a lot of fragrances. And what are they going to do? They're going to increase the prices. Because if people are buying them and paying the prices for these fragrances, are they really needing to raise the prices up because it's getting more expensive to produce these fragrances? Or is it just greed? So, okay, last year I said I was complaining about the fact that they raised prices again. It went up from $450 to $500 a bottle for the 200 ml Les Exclusives. This year, it's gone up to $540. They might have just done it $550. Why did they do just $40 this year? Because it's always been 50, 50, 50 for a long time. So might as well had it at $550. It would have been a nice even number. But it is $540 right now, and the breakdown was, well, with sales tax, when it was $500, it was $545. Now it's $587 because it's at $540 before taxes. Now these prices are USA prices. So if you're in the Europe, most likely the tax is already included in the price. Still, it's better to get it there if you're traveling to Europe. Buy your Chanel or any brand's fragrances there because it is less expensive, especially in France. If you're going to France, these fragrances are definitely less expensive there, and bring back the fragrances that you want to buy. But of course, it costs a lot of money to fly to Europe or France to buy these fragrances. Let me give you the price per mil comparison here. We're talking about last year's price, 1 mil for $272. This year's price, 1 mil is $294, almost $3. So a 2 mil for last year's price was $544. This year's price is $287. A 3 mil for last year's price was $816. 3 mils of the new price is $881. 5 mils of last year's price is $1359. This year's is $1468. 10 mls for the 2024 price was $27.19. 10 ml this year is just under $30 at $29.36. And then finally 30 mls, $81.56 for last year's price. This year it's almost $90, $88.09. So those are the 200 ml bottles for Chanel Les Exclusives. This is what I buy. And the good thing about Chanel is they keep raising, well, not a good thing that they keep raising their prices up. A good thing, they don't release a lot of fragrances that I always have to buy. The last time they launched a Les Exclusives was last year for Comet, and prior to that, they launched Le Lion 4 years before. So they're not constantly cranking out fragrances, and we're actually anticipating a men's release. They launched the Super Leggera last year, and it's interesting. It smelled good, but the more I wore it, the more marine it became, and I didn't like that. But from what I hear, last year I visited several Chanel sections of department stores in Europe, mostly in France, and they did confirm, they didn't want to give out too much information. There is something new coming for men, from what I hear. So most likely we're going to have a new men's fragrance. But the prices I'm reporting to you guys are on the less exclusives. Most likely some of the signature line fragrances did get increases, but last year I double checked, not everything got price increases, some did. So I'm not 100% sure this year if anything did. I'm mostly reporting on the less exclusives because those are the ones that I buy more. Let's quickly talk about the 75 ml bottles, because the Chanel less exclusives come in a 200 ml or 75 ml, unlike the Dior, which is a 50 ml, 100 ml, and a 200 ml. I think that's the breakdown for the Dior. But so 75 ml bottles last year were $325. This year they're $350. So the price went up $25. So old per mil prices for 75 ml less exclusive fragrances: 1 mil for $471 compared to 1 mil $508 this year. Last year 2 ml was $943. This year $1015. Last year 3 ml was $1414. This year $1523. Last year 5 ml was $2356. 5 ml this year is $2538. 10 ml last year $4713. 10 ml this year over $50, $50.75. And finally 30 ml last year was $141.38, and 30 ml this year is $152.25. The reason I'm giving you these prices, I know a lot of you decant if you're buying a large bottle and just, decanting it and selling it to friends. It's always good to go with the larger bottles because it's better return, because you get more juice for a larger bottle. Of course, you're paying more, but it's a better deal. It's not like double, you're not multiplying 50 ml and 50 ml, and that's what the price is. It turns out to be less. So this is a disappointing thing about Chanel. I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot more price increases soon. I'm afraid that Dior, even though they decreased the size of their bottles, I have a feeling that we might see a price increase. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think everything is going to go up soon. From what I hear and what's going on in the world, prices are going to increase more frequently. This might be the last time for Chanel, though. I'm assuming we'll have another price increase next year. Next year they might go to, let's see, like a $60 increase, because that might even it out. But I don't want to predict the future. I did predict last year that there was going to be a price increase this year, and sure enough, it happened. But yeah, as I said, it's disappointing. There isn't another Chanel less exclusives launching. At least I haven't heard. If you guys have any news or anything that's upcoming from Chanel, do let us know. Add a comment below. But as far as I know, I don't see anything like a less exclusives on the horizon. But I was told that there might be a new men's fragrance launching this year. In fact, there might even be a new feminine fragrance launching, but those are in the signature line. But let me know your thoughts on these price increases for Chanel. Again, stay tuned till the end of this video for the last story, and it makes sense that brands are increasing the prices of their fragrances. But let's quickly move on to the Dior bottle changes, and I've actually reported on these bottle changes quite a few times already. In fact, last week I aired a Bois Talisman video. Let me know your thoughts if you have watched that video, because I mentioned in that video the bottle size changes as well. But now Dior bottles used to be 250 ml. They are now 200 ml. So I've always mentioned in videos that Dior was the best value for money as far as the designers' PRIVEE collections or exclusives or privates or whatever they call them, the Vestiaire collection or whatever. I always felt that the Dior was the best deal, 250 ml, and it was priced much lower. I think ever since COVID happened, people were stuck at home. People started buying a ton of fragrances. People started enjoying fragrances, and so there's more demand for fragrances. I think that's what's making the prices go up, and also probably greed as well. But the prices have gone up quite a bit, and Dior did it as well. But now, the disappointing thing about Dior is that they have made the bottle 200 ml from 250. So it's no longer the best value, because it's not. I think LVMH exclusive houses fragrances like Louis Vuitton, Celine, even Fendi now, they all come in the same size bottles. It's either a 100 ml or a 200 ml. Louis Vuitton did that. Celine did that. Fendi is doing that, I believe. I believe they have more than 100 ml from Fendi. I haven't really played around with the Fendi fragrances. I've only, picked up one of their fragrances and I ordered it online. I have La Baguette, but I think they come with a 200 ml. So similar to these three brands, Louis Vuitton, Celine, and also the Fendi, now Dior does the same thing. So you're not going to get more juice. You're going to pretty much get the same sizes and pretty much the same prices as well. And also the Guerlain did the same thing as well. They went from these kind of pretty cool bottles, minus the little pump sprayers that they used to have on there. I enjoyed those bottles. They switched them to more uniform bottles, and I think it's 100 ml and a 200 ml bottle. I don't buy the small sizes, so I don't usually keep track. But I think that's what LVMH is doing, and so that's what they're doing with the Dior fragrances as well, to make it all, I guess, similar sizes, similar prices. But are they really the same values, the same cost for the fragrances? But let me know your thoughts on the changes with Dior. Are you still a fan of the House of Dior and their fragrances? Because they have been giving us quite a few duds lately, unfortunately, and Bois Talisman was also a dud. It's a disappointing fragrance, actually, and I compared it in that video with By the Fireplace because a lot of people were saying it smells like By the Fireplace. And even though I think far away from one another, they do remind you of one another, side by side, I got less smoke with the By the Fireplace in comparison to the Bois Talisman. But the thing I didn't like about Bois Talisman was it didn't smell very expensive and luxurious. It had a very cheap quality to it. And when I was wearing it, it has this kind of a flexible, stretchy, kind of a gummy, rubbery texture. It wasn't very pleasant, whereas the By the Fireplace felt like it was blended great in a fragrance I'm very familiar with and one that I really enjoy. So Bois Talisman was disappointing. So not only do we have a disappointing fragrance, and also we have the size changes. But again, some stores still have the 250 ml bottles. Unfortunately, none of Bois Talisman because it's the first release for a 200 ml. But like our Neiman Marcus store does still have the 250 ml bottles. So if you're in the market for any Dior Privé fragrances like Spice Blend or Vanilla Diorama or any of the other fragrances in the collection, get it now because it's the same price and you get 50 ml more of juice. But later, once all the stores have the 200 mls, you're going to get 50 ml less for the same price. But let's see. So per ml price, I didn't write down all the different sizes here for the Dior, but for the 250 ml, they were $1.96 per ml. Now it'll be $2.45 per ml for the 200 ml. And these do not include the taxes. The way I did it with the Chanel included the taxes. So, or maybe no, these do include taxes as well, I believe. But the 125 ml bottles will change to 100, obviously, and they are now 330. And before it was 287 for a 1 ml, and now it's 359 for a 1 ml. So still very disappointing with the designers. And I don't know, I guess this is what we have. But if Dior is going to be launching lackluster fragrances like Bois Talisman, I might be buying less and less. But what do you guys think? Did you enjoy Bois Talisman? What are your thoughts on the size changes from 250 to 200? You know, the bottle sizes are very, very close, just slightly different. But you can totally notice it. If you're going to photograph them together, they're going to, stand out like a sore thumb. But yeah, do let me know your thoughts on these changes in the fragrance world. And let me talk about the third story as I've been mentioning. So I caught a post. I follow Business of Beauty. It's an Instagram account. And they had a post that said, PUIG posts a 14% rise in holiday sales. So PUIG net sales for the 3 months until December 31, so 3 months prior, is when they started tracking. They track all the time. I'm just giving you the time frame. They made $1.36 billion, which converts to $1.42 billion, above 1.30 billion euros average forecast from analysts polled by LSEG. So this means that people are buying. People are buying fragrances, and they're going to continue buying, even though the prices keep going up and up and up. So PUIG bought Byredo about 2 years ago. The rumor was originally that L'Oreal was going to buy them, but later it turned out that PUIG bought them. And I think it's been a pretty good partnership for them. We have a Byredo store here now. It's been here actually since the pandemic. I believe it was a Space NK store that converted to Byredo. And Byredo was under the Manzanita group before, which also owned Space NK. They owned not Aesop, but Malin and Getz. They also owned Diptyque. And so once Byredo went to PUIG, Manzanita Group or Manzanita Capital bought DS and Durga. So most likely we'll get a DS and Durga store here. But on Fillmore Street, now we have Diptyque, Le Labo, which moved into a larger store. We have Byredo. We have Ministry of Scent. There might be one or two other kind of beauty fragrance type of stores that might be nearby. But yeah, that's becoming Fragrance Row now all of a sudden. But going back to PUIG and the fact that they made this much money during the holidays, over $1 billion, makes sense that the brands keep raising prices, but people keep buying the fragrances still. But if you don't know much about PUIG, PUIG has been around since 1914, so over 100 years old. And PUIG used to release their own fragrances. Quorum, which I mentioned in a men's fragrances video recently, is one of the ones I still remember from PUIG. But they are now a distributor, and they also distribute beauty and some fashion as well. So the companies or the brands that they own: Byredo, Carolina Herrera, Charlotte Tilbury. By the way, the Charlotte Tilbury fragrances that launched last year, complete disappointment and duds. I did not care for them. I mean, I liked some of them, but none of them were really anything to write home about. Dries Van Noten, Jean-Paul Gaultier, L'Artisan Parfumeur, Nina Ricci, Penhaligon's, Rabanne or Paco Rabanne, and Banderas, which is Antonio Banderas and his fragrances. I think they're distributed by PUIG. So this is not necessarily just Byredo. It's all of the umbrella of PUIG brands. But it's interesting that they made this much money just in the 3 months period leading up to the holidays. So yeah, I mean, that's why these brands are raising prices, making bottles smaller, because I think there is an addiction involved here with fragrances, and also finding the next best scent. And the fact that people blind buy a lot now means these brands and conglomerates are going to be making more and more money. So when they make more and more money, they say, okay, these people have money, they're buying our products, we're going to raise the prices up. But going back to the idea of raising prices up, are they raising the prices up because the materials and the ingredients are getting costlier? Or is it just from greed? Let me know that thought, and let me know everything that you want to share from your own thoughts about all of this stuff going on that I mentioned and discussed in this video. And thank you so much for tuning in today to listen to my thoughts on this more like business-oriented theme of fragrance houses and all that good stuff. Do you know if any other brands have raised their prices recently? I know it happens usually at the beginning of the year. The only ones I know of are Chanel and, of course, the Dior bottle changes. But most likely some other brands have changed their prices or raised their prices as well. Tom Ford is constantly changing, but I didn't check in time for this video. If I do find out, I'll do a separate video on that. But let me know if you've discovered that other brands have increased their prices at the beginning of this year. Add a comment below. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you do have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.